World War II started for the town in which the Finkelsteins lived in 1939 when the Russians occupied Ostrog. This was the result of a pact between Hitler and Stalin to partition Poland. The Germans occupied one half and the Russians the other. As it turned out, their town fell into the Russian half. The changes were profound. Numerous Jewish families were uprooted during the night and sent to Siberia because they were labeled as capitalists. In actuality, they were barely above the average in economic standing in town. But as the saying goes, God works in mysterious ways. Most of the people who were punished by being sent to Siberia actually survived the war. The policies of the occupiers created an atmosphere where fear became the predominant mood. All consumables were in very short supply, and a black market was in full bloom. Jean's family was in the same sinking boat as the rest of the town. But good fortune smiled upon them, and they soon learned to cope with the new system. Their immediate family eventually fared better than the other townspeople. Because of his father's profession, he was made the comptroller of a grain distribution center, and they did okay. Jean's uncle was able to get a good job with a transportation organization, and this bit of luck was key to the survival of the family. The date is now June 22nd, 1941. Jean is 5 years old. The entire family, including cousins, aunts, uncles, and grandparents, were in the Finkelstein home, and a family meeting was taking place. Jean's mother was very vocal about wanting to escape to Russia as soon as possible. Jean's father, on the other hand, pointed out that the fears about the Germans were pure propaganda, and he did not want to go anywhere. Jean's uncle declared that he can get a hold of a large truck from work, and that he and his family were leaving. Jean's mother started to cry and described what she heard from the fleeing Jews that managed to get out from under the Nazis. She told her husband that if he refused to leave, they would all be killed, and it would be because of his decision to stay. His father relented under the pressure and reluctantly agreed to join his brother and flee for safety. Getting their hands on this truck was nothing less than miraculous. Without it, they would have been stuck. Jean's grandparents declared that they would stay. Their thinking was that the Germans would not harm elderly people. They remembered the last war and the fact that the Germans were strict but did not harm anyone. Jean's aunt, his mother's younger sister, was reluctant to leave but bowed to his mother's logic and agreed to go along with her family. The decision to leave was made the following day. The next day, while sitting around waiting for the truck to arrive, the kids, including Jean, were running around the house, jumping on beds and doing all the usual things that kids do. But while jumping on the bed, a cousin banged his head on the headboard, and as a result of his crying and carrying on, Jean's aunt decided to take him home and not leave with the rest of the family. This would prove to be a costly decision. Jean's mother dressed him in 2 pairs of pants. Actually, 2 of everything. It was summer and very hot and uncomfortable. This was done so they would not have to carry too many bags. The truck arrived. Jean Zadie hugged him and put the 5-year-old grandson in the truck. They all sat on suitcases in the bed of the truck. Jean waved to his grandparents and other relatives as they pulled away from the house. Jean's mother shouted, "We will all see each other very soon when the war ends." They all had tears streaming down their cheeks, but Jean, on the other hand, was very excited and couldn't understand why the grown-ups were crying. After all, it was his first time on such a big truck. As they left their street, they looked to the sky and saw thick columns of black smoke and could hear the sounds of artillery. They must have been about 10 miles ahead of the advancing German army. When war broke out between Germany and Russia in June of 1941, about 1,000 Jews from the town of Ostrog managed to leave. Jean, his brother, parents, and a few other family members were among these 1,000. They left Ostrog, but 9,500 Jews did not leave. Jean's grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins were among those that remained. In July, just 1 month later, the Germans and their accomplices, the Ukrainians, started a campaign of plunder and murder among the town's remaining Jewish people. Jean's grandparents were murdered during the first wave of attacks. In August, just 1 month after that, the rest of Jean's family were wiped out. Jean and his family would cover 7,000 miles by truck, train, foot, and boat from Ostrog to Kiev, Penza, Uzbekistan, and many other places in between, including a displaced persons camp and eventually the United States of America. Jean's father endured threats and arrests. There were countless times when Jean went to sleep hungry and afraid. Izzy Finkelstein, a fragile, skinny little boy who had bouts with malaria, turned into a conniving, crafty, fast-running little scrounger, fighter, and thief in those few but long years. They did, what they needed in order to survive. And along the way, numerous people who had goodness in their hearts and a conviction of righteousness helped Jean and his family survive the Holocaust. I'm Howie Nestel, Jean's nephew, and I'm happy and proud to say that my Uncle Jean and my Aunt Martha recently celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary. They have 3 great kids and 5 wonderful grandchildren. My Uncle Jean has lived in Germany and Italy, in New Jersey, Colorado, and Texas. He's excelled at tennis, soccer, snow skiing, and is an avid golfer. He's been a business owner, an associate professor, holds a Master of Arts degree. He's a Vietnam veteran and received the Bronze Star for his role in the Tet Offensive. His illustrious career in the U.S. Army ended with his retirement at Fort Sam Houston in 1986 as Lieutenant Colonel and was awarded the Legion of Merit Medal.